Welcome to the Danny Clinkscale Reasonably Irreverent podcast. Insightful and witty commentary, probing interviews, and detours from the beaten path.
Welcome to what we hope will be another rollicking edition of Reconcilable Differences, a couple's look at life, and life, of course, continues to be a challenge, and it's a challenge to find things that are fun to do. It's a challenge to not get bored with some things we've discovered. It's a challenge to find new places to drive to, because we've driven about everywhere in our little drives, and we'll talk about that a little bit. We just passed Mother's Day, and Jane's mother is no longer with us, a very strong and independent and wonderful lady who passed away a few years ago. My mother is still around, and we did a fun Zoom call with her the other day. So we'll talk about motherhood and parenting a little bit as well, and talk about something that I think is always a discussion point, which is that pretty much everybody thinks that they have eclectic taste in music, but maybe as a couple, Jane and I actually can make that case and make it with actual certainty, as a matter of fact. All those things are on the table today and a little bit more, and we'll see where things will take us as we roll on Reconcilable Differences for this edition on the Danny Clinkscale Reasonably Irreverent podcast this time around. Cinematic Visions has been an affordable solution for professional media production in Kansas City since 2003, offering award-winning video production and creation, as well as a wide array of digital and social media management services. From planning, scripting, filming, editing, and post-production, to delivering your product to a watching world, Cinematic Visions will provide professional and affordable services for you and your business with the necessary return on investment to make it all worthwhile. Cinematic Vision's goal is to unlock the power of storytelling through video and a strong online presence for your company. Beyond the numbers, they want to inspire and evoke your clients to feel and act. Let my friends at Cinematic Visions embed your brand where it belongs, in your customers' minds. You can find them online at cinematicvisions.com or with a quick phone call at 816-600-6300. My friends at Advanced Sports and Family Chiropractic and Acupuncture are among the most accomplished and trusted clinics in the nation. Only one clinic has been rated in the top 5 in all 3 categories of chiropractic care, acupuncture, and rehabilitation, and that clinic is ASFCA. They have locations in Olathe, Overland Park, Prairie Village, Belton, and Lee Summit. Doctors Brad and Christina Woodle and their accomplished team of doctors and therapists will treat you like family, for the simplest of injuries to the most complicated conditions to avoid surgery. Whether you are seeking treatment for an injury or just looking to stay healthy and fit, this is the place for you. And it's been the place for me for almost 2 years now. I've been a strenuous daily exerciser for years, and as time goes on, that takes its toll. But regular appointments at Advanced Sports and Family Chiropractic and Acupuncture have helped keep me ticking on, and even as the years pile up, their regular care has allowed me to keep to my regimen and feel great. If you want to feel the same, give them a call or visit them at asfca.com/Danny. They accept all insurances and are open Monday through Saturday, and make sure to mention that Danny Clinkscale recommended Advanced Sports and Family Chiropractic and Acupuncture.
For many people, a family law case will be one of the most difficult experiences in their life. The law firm of Kenneth McRae will help you through it. Personal and effective help from Ken in concert with you will develop a unique strategy for your unique case. As Ken always says, divorce can be civil law, not civil war. Licensed in Kansas? Visit McRaeLawOffice.com or call 913-972-4765. If you'd like to join these and other great sponsors and market your business to a growing and engaged audience, contact us at danny@dannyclinkscale.com. Look forward to hearing from you.
Welcome back to our little world, and we hope you're enjoying these every couple of weeks that we do on Arts and Lifestyle Wednesday, presented by Cinematic Visions. And Jane Siemens is my partner in life and my partner on this broadcast as well, president of Venice Communications and many other things. So let's get rolling, and we just had Mother's Day, and it's always a bittersweet day for you these days. You and your mother were quite close, almost a friendship-type relationship as the years went on. You come from a smaller family, so I'll get into my relationship with my mother a little bit, but you did have such a fine relationship with your mother, and you would go out to eat and do things more that like you were sisters or friends towards the end of her life, especially.
Well, hey, I waited for you long enough, so maybe my parents and my relationship were, closer than some older in life. And, it was hard when she left because there was a void there. But the good news is I got some great advice, and I have some fabulous female friends that have taken, they're all kind of different personalities that make up my mother's quite complex personality.
Well, I think your mother's going to come into the part of the conversation that I'm going to spring on you. Basically, a lot of this is my ideas generated, and sometimes I'll try to surprise Jane with something. My relationship with my mother has always been a great one. We are close, but I have a very large family. I have 5 siblings, and we were all born within a very short period of time, 6 children in 10 years, less than 10 years, actually, 9.5, as a matter of fact. So our house was pretty much a circus, but I was the oldest one, so I did get a little more attention. And while your mother was very encouraging and enthusiastic, not a stage mother, as it were, but somebody who was going to push you along, my parents did not push me. In fact, I think the fact that I pretty much achieved so much when I was young on my own that they just said, well, he can go off and do his own thing. I could have been used being pushed a little bit more, but for the first 9, 10, 11 years of my life, probably a little bit longer, I did just about everything perfectly. So they trusted me implicitly and just thought I was the greatest thing since sliced bread, and they'd let me go my merry way. And in my teen years, I kind of just got lost because of that. But you had a keener focus, and perhaps your mother's a big part of that.
I think that's true. She and my dad both came from large families, and they chose to sort of develop and build a life on their own that they could give more to their children that they didn't actually have when they were growing up. So I'm always grateful for my mom for that. And what she ended up doing, they're a bit, Depression-era parents in the sense that everything was of value. You bought a shirt, you want to keep that shirt as long as you possibly can. You buy a recording, you hope it lasts a lifetime. That was the mentality they had. And she was somewhat of a perfectionist, and they had 5 singers in the family, and her father, who I didn't know, actually, my grandfather passed away before I was born, he played many, many instruments. And so I just had this natural ability when I was really young. They put me in ballet and theater when I was 5, and I was a stage hound immediately. And so then when I found out I had a voice, a singing voice, it just sort of took over. And so that my mom, and I have that in common, and she always had a great ear for music. But there was sort of an expectation in our family growing up that, that you keep trying and do the best you can. So I grew up with perfectionists, so hence you got stuck with one.
Well, I wouldn't say stuck, but and I don't look back on this with any animus towards my parents as far as that was concerned. My dad was incredibly busy. He was working a lot in television then, so it was really I didn't see him very much a lot of the time through my early teen years. So it was up to me. If I was going to super achieve at some of the things like sports and everything else, that was on me, and I didn't quite do it. So anyway, that's all in the rearview mirror. But that was it was just in my family, it was sort of a frenetic form of parenting. There was just so much going on that it was very difficult. It was difficult for my mother. She did a lot of things by herself, and so it was almost like a circus. Very different from you. You had just 2 children in your family, separated by several years, so you could have a lot of attention. And your mom was, although an educated woman, was a stay-at-home mother. So that was a much more different and sedate life, I guess, in some regards.
I don't know if sedate's quite the word.
Probably not.
We were so busy in theater, and she was involved with Children's Theater Board, Symphony Board. So she was out always giving back. She loved children's theater, and to the day she died, one of her big focuses was helping kids to experience theater when they were really young and have that chance, even if they didn't go into it as a profession. I think it was something she always would like. She would have been able to do when she was younger. So she instilled that in us. It was, yes, what was great was I had the whole house as a practice room. I mean, I have to admit, when my sister was gone, she was 6 years older than me. I had a chance to really work on my music on a continuous basis without a lot of, distraction. People came in. We had parties. We were always, having parties with the theater group, with the choral, people from high school. And my parents just loved that. My dad was a golfer. He was the sort of calm one. So there was a lot of energy in the family, but it was more focused, I guess.
So you and I did have different backgrounds as far as our raising is concerned, but in no way, shape, or form did that make Mother's Day any more important for us. And you got to share my Mother's Day with a small group. I decided to have it be a small group, and it was more for my kids, my mom's grandchildren, and one in California, one in Brooklyn, and my sister, who facilitated. My mom would never be able to Zoom without assistance, so my youngest sister, who I'm probably the closest to of any of my siblings, and her little family. So it was really a fun thing, and the best part of it was that mostly it was the rest of the people being their regular zany selves and telling stories and everything, and my mother observing mostly her handiwork, as it were, with her grandchildren and her daughter and her son. And I think it was just a wonderful time.
What I love about Zoom is that you get a chance to kind of like focus on people. You can decide who you want to focus on. They don't always know you're looking at them. So that's the cool thing. What I don't like about Zoom is I think they should have a thing where you can turn yourself off so you don't have to be aware of what you look like through the whole conversation. Because who does that when in a regular conversation you're not staring at yourself or
right.
We're talking to each other? So I think that's the downside. One thing that I have challenged my stepdaughter on, she's studying theater in New York, and she's, totally homebound right now because of the virus, is, ways that, music people, who want to stay involved, choral people, symphony people, how can, I think producers, if they could come up with some unique ways other than the typical Zoom, let's all get together on Zoom and do a piece of music. If we could come up with more creative ways, I think producers are going to make a lot of money right now, because it's going to be a long time before symphonies, choirs, rock groups, you name it, are going to really be able to get together, with a full-fledged audience again. So how can we recreate music in a way that isn't already being done on Zoom?
Well, we've talked about this together, and it really struck home to you how an important person in the choir world has basically spread the word that choirs should really just not even congregate to sing, no matter how much distance they think they can provide and everything. There's just too much when people sing. They project liquid out of their mouths. But I remember we sat in the second row at a Broadway show, and you could see the spit coming out of the. Now there was one scene where they were supposed to spit, but even when they weren't, you could see it through the lights that is happening at quite a distance. So a really sad thing because choir and that collective thing for people is such a wonderful experience, especially maybe for people who aren't the most accomplished singers but are enthusiastic. If you get them in a large group, they can have a community of singing. A choir that's 25 or 30 people can actually gloss over the fact that one person maybe isn't a very good singer but really loves to do it.
Oh my God. This was sort of, sent shockwaves, as I think people already knew, but there is a really well-known doctor who works with music groups, and through the National Association of Teachers of Singing, she put out a statement basically saying, don't do it, because there's been deaths from choirs all the way from Germany to Seattle, people convening not only for church choirs but professional choirs, that if even one person has the virus, can spread it so quickly and communicate it to other people who might have underlying conditions. So she is recommending, until we have a vaccine, do not do this. It's going to be an overwhelming discussion between all. Imagine going to college and you're majoring in music,
right?
Or you're in the middle of a rock tour and you've got to stop this because of all this. I mean, it's got a ripple effect throughout all the theater.
No question about that, and I don't think you knew that this was a topic that I was going to, but the pros and cons of Zoom, which you just naturally walked into, you're doing a tremendous amount of Zoom meetings, and it has been an almost invaluable tool at this point in time, that if we didn't have it, it would have been, conference calls are possible, but it's certainly much better when you can, but still, I think everybody is kind of wearying of it, but we're still going to have to do it for a while.
Yeah, it's been so helpful. I've been on some, what's really been great is having a little extra time. I've been taking Zoom webinars, from coaching conglomerates like Kansas Leadership Group, just trying to not only do the typical calls we have to do with clients and other colleagues, but there's been some opportunities now. People are holding some free stuff where you can build and learn and grow in ways you don't always have time to. So there's been some sort of positive things. And as I said again, it helps you observe other people sort of in a different way.
Well, I think it'll be a real positive as a fallout of it that families who live in separate places have sort of discovered this, and I think they will continue to use it as a tool on birthdays and anniversaries and things like that. So that, to me, is a real positive of, there's not too many positives that are coming out of this thing, but we try to pick them out, and I think the down-the-line use of Zoom personally, not just professionally, will be one of them. Well, we talked about trying to find out entertainments and things to keep us smiling. Let's visit on that next as we continue with our reconcilable differences right here on this particular Wednesday. It's gloomy out again. I think I'll touch on that, too. Gloomy weather seems more gloomy these days. That and things to smile about coming up next.
More of Danny's Reasonably Irreverent podcast after this.
We're here with Joe Spiker, the CEO and president of Easton Roofing. And Joe, you had a great year in 2019, a record year. 2020 comes, things are moving smoothly along, and then the coronavirus comes. But your company seemed to be very ready, very proactive, and very ready to serve your customers well.
Yeah, we adopted social distancing very early before the cities even put out the notices. And we started working from home. We are largely cloud-based as a company, so that transition was easy. Our technicians are wearing masks and gloves, and salespeople are not meeting with homeowners. We're doing everything digitally and doing everything we can to do our part to get over this as quickly as possible.
So for any needs that people have right now, what's the best way to get in touch with you?
Well, you can always call us, 913-257-5426. But the best way is to go to eastonroofing.com, put your information in, and we'll give you a call.
Easton Roofing. Integrity matters.
Hey everyone, this is Matt Llewellyn from 23rd Street Brewery, wishing you well while you stay safe during this time of uncertainty. Due to the recent news, you won't be able to get the same in-restaurant experience at the 23rd Street Brewery that you've come to expect over the past 16 years. But you can get the same delicious items prepared with the highest level of staff cleanliness available for carryout and delivery through our partners Eat Street. You can also still enjoy our craft beers and crowlers for to-go service. So remember, stay safe, and together we will all get through this time of uncertainty.
We're visiting with Larry Marshall, former Chiefs defensive back and punt returner and now a Chiefs ambassador. Larry is a former pro football player with the aches and pains that come with that, and moving on in age as we all are. What do the Canaway CBD products do for you?
It's been a great relief for me. Being a punt and kickoff returner, collisions were a mainstay of my career, and these Canaway products, the salve especially, has really helped me try to get through every day with the aches and pains that I've had over a career of 7+ years in the NFL.
I get similar benefits as well, particularly with my back. Certainly wasn't a football player. What's the best way for our listeners to get more information about the great products themselves?
Well, I'm so enthused about it, Dana. If they just contact me at larrymarshall.canaway.com, and I can give them all the information they need to help them get through the day as well.
Start gaining all the benefits that Larry and I do from the trusted and reliable line of Canaway products. As Larry said, visit larrymarshall.canaway.com and get information on all the great products from Canaway. If you'd like to join these and other great sponsors and market your business to a growing and engaged audience, contact us at danny@dannyclinkscale.com. Look forward to hearing from you. Welcome back, and as we have our discussion today, it's not a sunny day. We haven't had too many sunny days. We seem to be headed for another year, which we seem to have had a few of, where we don't really have spring here in the Kansas City area here in the Midwest. We go from sort of winter to a period where maybe we get a little weather and we get some blooms, but then the weather's not very good. And right now, when there's so much staying at home, when the sun doesn't come up in the morning, it has more of an impact on me, and I'm a pretty easygoing fellow, but I'm like, no, come on, let's have some sunshine today. The gloomy days seem gloomier.
Oh, I know, and we've been doing a really good job of, like, when it's a nice, weekday, we've been running out to Dare to Play Golf, which is my first golf games in the last 15 years. So we've been enjoying it so much, and this week's been just horrendous because of the grayness. Typical Kansas anymore, you just don't know what you're going to get, but we have to be creative and find ways to, create opportunities. We're having a birthday party tomorrow night on Zoom with a good friend of ours, Father, who we usually meet all together in Columbus Park. Darn it all.
Right. Yeah. And we can't do that.
Oh, my God.
That seems to, unfortunately for that man, that has been a star-crossed event. I mean, it's usually had bad weather, or I think we had one time where it went off on as scheduled, where it was supposed to be, on the date it was supposed to be. And once again, forces have intervened to make it a different kind of celebration, which we'll have tomorrow.
I have to say, one of the things I'm looking at is I keep looking at the great Southwest, deals out there. And I've reached a point where I might just pick a date and go for it and buy a ticket. Like you said, it's always, you can always use it again, because it's kind of reached a point where you have to look for the thing that's difficult in this circumstance is how you can plan for the future. We're so used to doing that, and this pandemic has really created a problem there. So unless you just get in the car and drive and you can go to your own lake house, there's a lot of thought that has to go into trips or even seeing relatives.
And we have traveled, really been lucky enough to travel quite a bit, and we love it, and it's something that to look forward to, and that's the thing. That's the thing about, I took a trip when I concluded my cancer treatment, and the trip was more about me looking forward to it as it was in doing it itself. It turned out to be a wonderful trip, and I wrote a book about it and all that, but it was the whole idea about it was to have a nice goal out there in the future. And for instance, we went to France last year, and we had that trip planned way, way in advance, and it was always like, oh, that's out there. Well, right now there's nothing out there.
I know we were supposed to go to my aunt and uncle's 70th wedding anniversary in California this summer, and we were still hoping there might be a chance, but it looks like that's going to be pretty tough unless we're just willing to take chances. I think the bottom line is how are people going to decide how many chances they want to take in these circumstances till we have full-on testing? That's another topic. And a vaccine. Yeah,
and that still seems to be quite a ways out in the future, although we've got the best medical science working diligently, and it'll probably happen faster than it ever would in any other circumstance that wasn't so horrifying, so I guess that's another slight positive. So if we don't get out on the golf course and we don't take a drive or whatever, we settle down in the evening and usually pick some entertainments out, and we have more of them these days because we've had a music channel that's popped up on us, and we have Netflix, and we've used that much more extensively. But last night we may have hit the mother lode of being
eclectic.
Eclectic, yes. Thank you for helping me with the word. We had the choice eventually of watching a documentary on tap dancing or watching the L.A. Philharmonic play, which we did for a few minutes, and we still have much of that left in the queue. But eventually we settled on watching live Cream, a live concert by Cream at Royal Albert Hall in 2005. Now, there you go. Tap dancing, the L.A. Philharmonic with Zubin Mehta, or Eric Clapton, Jack Bruce, and Ginger Baker, and we did watch most of that, and that was fabulous. But I think that's an indication of we talk about the things we don't have. What we do have is enough wide-ranging interests so that we can enjoy ourselves like that.
That's what's so great. Maybe that's why we're still together, Danny. I mean, this is what's so great about life. I mean, I grew up around a lot of classically trained musicians, and that is my bent. That's what I'm good at. But I also grew up with a sister who was 6 years older than me. And, what did we do? We danced to rock and roll, Creedence Clearwater Revival on our green shag carpeting, in the late 60s and 70s. So I have got all these sounds in my head. I love all kinds of music. And so I love it all. And so you seem to be open to that as well.
Well, I really, for instance, one thing we did last night as well is watch this PBS series that's called The Midwife. And it's about midwives, and it's many seasons on now. I don't know which one it is we're watching. And you might think that if we are watching a series that's set in the late 50s and now at the early 60s that's about midwives in difficult situations in Great Britain, that it would be Jane's idea that we watch this particular show, and pretty much I'm the driving force behind the fact that we like this show. There's a certain slightly saccharine quality to the show amidst all the horror that goes on, but I think you kind of almost need that as a balance. It's a wonderful show, and it's another area where we have reconcilable, not differences.
Well, it's a topic that is so hidden because it's always such a female thing, and it's usually a private thing. And what's so great about this show is it shows, what can happen in childbirth in all these different settings at a time when medical advances were gaining on it, as was the pill. So, people in the Poplar area in, East End of London, were dealing with a lot of really scary things during that era. And it is just a fabulous period piece. Fabulous.
Well, back to the music as we eclectic our way around. I think that this concert in 2005 we watched by Cream, which is one of my favorite bands, and this thing that's been going around on Facebook where somebody challenges you to pick out 10 albums and you just put the album cover on there and you don't comment on it. And actually the very first album I put on there was Live Cream Volume 2 because it was the first album I ever bought. And what it struck me is that it showed, because it was 2005, so these people weren't old, but they were older, especially Ginger Baker, the drummer. And it just shows how, we talked about this the other day, that comedians who survive their youth, if it's not tragic, like in the case of many comedians, then if that's past, they seem to last a long time. Jerry Stiller just died at 92. But musicians also seem to have that driving force, and an older man like Ginger Baker didn't look like he had lost a trick on the drums.
Unbelievable technical savvy, and he was right up there with Clapton. And what was so great is these guys looked like they were having the best time of their lives. Like they were enjoying it even much more so when they were, the kids they were when they started this band. There was a lot of, friction and controversy and all that, and everybody wants to think they've got more to do in life. So everybody goes off and does other stuff, especially Clapton. But in the end, I think he may have, his best moments might have been in that band.
Right. It was really a fun show, and it was
except for Layla.
And tonight we probably will be watching the LA Philharmonic. Are you ready for that, honey?
Oh my God, Dudinel in the most beautiful space. You can't beat the LA Philharmonic, and the passion that they have for the music that they're playing. I don't know what all they've got on. They had some Debussy last night, and I forget what else they're playing tonight. But if you're not a big symphony hound, start with the LA Philharmonic and Dudinel performing.
There's your bit of advice to close things out here on another edition of Reconcilable Differences with Danny and Jane, our couple's view of life. And we hope you enjoyed our far-flung discussion for this time around on Arts and Lifestyle Wednesday, presented by Cinematic Visions on the Reasonably Irreverent podcast. And we'll see you again next time.
This podcast was made possible by our great sponsors like Easton Roofing, the presenting sponsor of Kansas City Profiles at the Danny Klingscale Reasonably Irreverent podcast. Easton Roofing, where integrity matters. We hope you enjoyed the latest Danny Klingscale Reasonably Irreverent podcast. Come back soon for something fresh and new.